All right, great. Well, welcome everybody to Trailblazers We Love. And I am excited to be joined today by my friend and soon to be yours, if he's not already, Dennis Baker. Dennis, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so we're going to
Yes.
have a few quick, easy questions for
Mhm.
you. And the first one I want to ask is, how did you get your start in the Salesforce ecosystem?
Yeah, it was a long then quick journey, if that's one way to say it, in the sense that I first heard about Salesforce through the podcast Choose FI. Personal finance is something that I care about, that something that I'm passionate about as well. Heard about it there, but I was in the middle of a career transition into being a classroom high school teacher, and so I was focused on that, studying credentials. So I heard about it, but I was just like, yeah, I can't do a second career transition. I can't. There's no way. So I just kind of put it on the back burner, got my teaching, was in the classroom, and I realized it just wasn't for me. It wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't, didn't have the passion, the connection, the things I was looking for. So I'm like, maybe I try the Salesforce thing out again. And so I jumped into it November of last year. So that would be November 2021. And then I started Trailhead. I jumped into Talent Stacker, which is just basically an organization and community that helps you kind of focus, to know what you need to do, to learn all you can, to build the skills, to be able to communicate to potential employers, and just learn as much as you can. And so I just jumped into that. And in a month, I got through the Trailhead. So November was when I went through all through Trailhead. And it happened faster than I thought. But then I also lucked out as a teacher. I had a full week of off at Thanksgiving. So I was able to really kind of spend that time, full time going there. December was studying for the cert, had a couple of weeks off for the holiday break. So really got to focus up there, passed it in January. And then I'm like, okay, great, I passed it. It's gonna take me 6 months to get a job because I'm new, I'm entry level. I have to figure out companies, I have to figure out roles, jobs. And as I interviewed, I realized, based on my background as a teacher, what I could offer a job, the BA route was really kind of being very clear of like, okay, the questions I'm able to feel comfortable with, the roles, the job requirements, all put into BA. And then I found a job who was like, yeah, we need some entry level BA people. We got some mid level, we got some seniors. We need to build this out community. We see what you can bring, but we also see how our other staff can help and guide you. And I'm like, that's the company I want to work for. That's the people I want to be around with. And they were passionate about that. They saw my skills. They pointed out my skills, saying you're great because of this, this, and this. And I got a job like in 20 plus days. I had a job by the beginning of February, and I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, it literally was 3 months from high school teacher to Salesforce BA. And I people would say that would happen, but I didn't think it was me. But then it was me. So
I
yeah.
love this so much for you. And I will tell you, you and I met on a sort of virtual Trailblazer group
Yeah.
meeting. And that's been one of my favorite things of the pandemic, is meeting
Yeah.
people who I would have ordinarily not met, based on geography. And
Totally.
such a cool resource. And I heard you already mention a few resources, Talent Stacker and Trailhead modules. What
Yeah.
other resources do you love for the Salesforce, journey? Because you did yours so accelerated, so great. I mean, you really were like, I'm going to take this and own it. What else do you love as a Salesforce resource?
Well, it's one, you start with Trailhead because that's where all the learning happens, and that's the foundational stuff. And you begin to learn the things you don't know, because that's the start, is what I don't even know, things you don't even know that you begin to know. So that's the beginning for me. And then from there, it was just the different avenues of communication. Talent Stack at its core is communication, sharing information. Twitter, that's how we got connected. Ohana Slack is another great. The community groups just on the message boards on Trailhead are amazing. I think, as we talked about, it's just the idea of people are willing to share, people are willing to give insight into their journey, and share their story. And if they can do it, I can do it. And if I can do it, you can do it. We're all the same, and we're just looking to build our next career. And if we're willing to put in the work and willing to just accept the fact that it can happen for anybody, no matter what age you are. Like, I think that was a big thing too. Like, I was nervous about doing a second career change. I was like, I already just did one. Can I do another one? I'm 42. Should I just stick it out and ride the teaching thing out? I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. And so all of that community with those resources, I think, gives you that foundation to propel you to go, yes, I can do it. Anybody can do it. And then if you're willing to put in the work, it can happen.
I love this, and especially as a fellow middle-aged person,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is so cool is Salesforce not only gives you the capacity to continue to learn,
Yeah.
but also it forces you to continue to learn, right?
Yeah.
3 releases a year, you better know what's happening next, right? So when we're thinking about Salesforce, what is your most underrated Salesforce product, or what's a best kept secret in Salesforce, or what's your favorite sort of thing in Salesforce?
That's a great question, because that goes back to the stuff of like, feel like there's so much stuff I still don't know. I was talking to a BA mentor, and she's like, "Oh, let's check out the company in App Exchange and see what they're doing." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you can do that!" And you can and I'm like, I didn't even think about that. And so like, I need to sit down and like, App Exchange is one where you just got to go, what is out there and what can you do and what can you add onto it? And then from there, to me, I'm taking flow classes. So for me, it's flow, because that was even in my interview questions. And they said it afterwards. It was like kind of a trick question for you to know that flow is kind of where everything is going, and process building and everything else is working out. And I'm like, yeah, flow is the next thing. But even a senior BA said, like, I'm still learning flow. Like, it's that kind of thing where it's just like everyone is always learning. They're just in different steps of their career. So it takes the pressure off you to go, oh, I don't know everything. I have the time to figure more things out and to learn more, and just to go, you know what? There's always going to be something that I can access or learn more about.
I totally agree with you. And I think flow is one of those things. When it first came out, I don't know that anybody could have predicted how impactful flow would be, because it is. And I will tell you, people, once they start working with flow, they become addicted to flow, because it really does give you a lot of capacity. And it's so popular on the user side because it makes life so much easier for them. So I don't know that if you would have said to me when I started working with Salesforce 13 years ago, can you predict this, Shannon? I would have never predicted flow. So the next question I have for you is going to throw you off, but do you have a Salesforce prediction?
Oh my gosh, these are so hard. But good, because it's that thing of, well, have you seen the Matthew McConaughey commercial?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's just that idea of it's every movie that predicts the future. Like, I was just talking to my students about Ray Bradbury in 1954 predicting people staying at home watching TV all night. And then that transitioned conversation into us on screens the whole time. And I'm like, Ray Bradbury would have never been able to guess smartphones. Like, he had an idea of the television and how we're going to be addicted to that. But it's next level with smartphones and not even television. So you can be addicted to something that you can leave the house with, but never really are seeing what's out there. And so I think like, I don't, like, that's the thing where I don't know. I'm open and I'm curious, and I know Salesforce is a company where it has so many capabilities and things up its sleeve that I think it's going to be something where we don't even know. Does that make sense?
I love it.
But we can't even predict it yet, because we're not that far thinking. And so I don't know what that is. It's a hard question that I don't know if I can answer. And I feel like I need a year of being in Salesforce to even take a swing at it in that sense, and of like working in it. But it's, at the core, it's customer connection, right? That's what the core of Salesforce is, and the companies that using it. So it's always probably going to be around a question of, how are the customers getting what they want, what they need? How are we of service? Like, that was what was powerful for me in Salesforce and as an educator, is how can we be best of service? So if I'm going to make any prediction, it's going to be how it's going to serve people better.
I love this. And I think it's a great prediction. I think, early on when Salesforce was like, we're going to do cloud computing, people are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense. We love installing on-prem software. We can control it. We can hold it. And now it's like, how can you predict what the future will be? It's crazy to think about, right?
And I wonder too, like, if it's the idea of like, it's always usually something that is in the future is changing something that we're probably used to, right? We're used to doing X, Y, and Z a certain way, but then a new company comes in and goes, well, what about A, B, and C? What about, I remember the college book, the Dr. Seuss book On Beyond Zebra, where Seuss created a whole new alphabet and goes, what's beyond Z? What can you imagine? What can you think of that you didn't even think of because you're just thinking A through Z? And I see Salesforce definitely doing that. They've done it before. They're going to continue going, okay, we've been doing it this way. What about a whole way that we've never even thought of?
I love that so much. And I love thinking about, what's so far beyond that we couldn't even wrap our brains around it right now. And,
Yeah.
people talk a lot about AI and machine learning, and that is still coming. And then you meet customers who are still doing their accounting on ledger books.
Yes. Yes.
That's fun. So I also want to know a little bit, Dennis, about your life outside of Salesforce. So,
Yeah.
if you want to share with us a podcast you love, a book you love, a
Yeah.
movie, tell us just a little bit more about something that you love that is not Salesforce related.
Well, like I said before, personal finance is something that I'm passionate about. So I would recommend the podcast Choose FI, because one thing, personal finance, everyone, no matter where you are, what field, what education, it involves everyone. So that's why I think it's amazing. And conversations around that of financial independence is powerful. It changes people's lives. So I would definitely encourage that. Other than that, I'm not a business marketer. I came from an SEO kind of like website background, but I'm a huge like Gary Vee fan. I'm a huge person, people that are passionate about what they do. Like Seth Godin, I read a lot and watch, and then people who are like, they're experts in their field, but they love what they do. Because if they love what they do, then that translates and that gets you passionate about what you love to do, even if it's not what they're doing. And so finding those people, connecting with those people, I think it fuels you, and it feeds you to be passionate, to find the passionate people in your field, which obviously for Salesforce is everyone. And you can, that's not a struggle. But yeah, finding those passionate people in other fields connects you to a broader sense.
I love this so much, Dennis, because thinking about, where the passion is, whether it's in Salesforce or somewhere else, I love this sort of trend. You brought up Twitter. I love this trend on Twitter where there's food force, right? Or garden force, where people are like, I have the same passion I bring to Salesforce to what I'm making for dinner.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And then and then it becomes that connection, that the through line through everything that you do. Yeah, it's amazing. I haven't found the garden force people yet, so I maybe needed to do that. But yeah, they're there, and that's interesting too. I'm tapping in, beginning to learn some of those subcultures of the Salesforce people out there, and it's cool. Like there's a group of us teachers now that are getting together, saying, okay, how do we apply those soft skills? How do we figure out as teachers, where do we fit into the Salesforce community versus someone with more of a technical background or a different background? So I think all those people are connecting to go, Salesforce is huge. The ecosystem is there for everyone. Where's your place in it? And find the people that are asking the same questions and that have the same backgrounds as you to figure that out, for sure.
I love this. It's like when you go to a big city, when you go to a giant city, if you're not from a giant city, and you're like, what I'd really like to have? I'd like to have, Thai food on a Tuesday night at 11 p.m. And you can find it because the city's so big. And that's sort of how the Salesforce ecosystem is, where you can feel like I'm such a niche player. I'm a person who was a teacher, who learned Salesforce in middle age. And I guarantee there are 40 people just like you out there of a similar story who would love to get together because of your affinity. And I think the ability to find people who have affinity and who are willing to become part of your tribe is one of my absolute favorite things about the Salesforce ecosystem.
Yeah. And I love how you use the word tribe, because Seth Godin, I remember a book years and years ago, and he mentioned that of like, marketing is about tribe, but then tribe is bigger than that too. Tribe is all around you, and it involves everything. And there's a work tribe, and my oldest daughter is a huge travel softball, so that's a whole tribe and a whole big community. But yet it's small at the same time because everyone knows each other, and that's where I love Salesforce, because everyone's able to connect and everyone's different. And there's so many different conversations, but yet we're also same, different, able to connect on different levels with backgrounds, but yet I'm learning from people who have completely different backgrounds, and they're giving me information as a BA. Because that's, as soon as I found out I was gonna be a BA, I'm like, I reached out to every BA I know. I'm like, tell me everything you know. Like, just give it to me all. And people are without a doubt sending me everything that they have, and it's been amazing. I love it. Yeah.
This is so good. So speaking of connection, where can people connect with you, Dennis? They should, because I think you're one of my favorite people, and I feel like people should also connect with you in the same way.
You are so kind, and you are so amazing. I say the two best places are LinkedIn and Twitter. Twitter, it's just my name @Dennis Baker. And then my LinkedIn has @Dennis Baker and it's 01 at the end. So those are the two places to connect. I love to interact with as many Salesforce people as possible. It's been
amazing.
I love to give back because everyone's given to me. So I'm here to give to anyone who asks questions.
So good. So if you are ready to become part of Dennis's tribe, please find him on Twitter or LinkedIn. You will find that he is very generous and very thoughtful and very kind. And that is the reason why Dennis Baker is one of the trailblazers that we love. Thanks for joining us today, Dennis, so much.
Thank you.